Welcome back. It's Brain Central now with Alex Leibner, and once again Roy Blumenthal is sharing some arty impressions of our interviews. Now, the South African Rugby Union has this week taken a decision to recognise the Protea as the national emblem and move the Springbok off the heart of the national rugby jersey. The team will still be known as the Springboks though, and the Springbok emblem will be emblazoned on the right side of the jersey in future. It's been a pretty controversial run-up to this decision, and with me to share their views, we have Tebe Igalafeng of Brand Leadership and Sean McCoy from HKLM Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Madeleine.
Tebe, I'll start with you. Does this really make a difference in how we view the brand?
Well, it doesn't necessarily make a difference in how we view the brand, but what is important is that what it does now is that it unifies the three super brands, the Bafana, the cricket team, and all those. In that, when you look at all three of them, they now the three of them share a central brand identity. Because as national teams, as national brands of South African sport, they ideally should all share the same brand.
Now, Sean, we've seen brands change and some come and go. Is this necessarily the right time to change it?
Well, I think it's
the Springboks being the reigning champions, obviously.
I think it's an extremely difficult one entirely from that perspective. Your opening question is to, where does one start? And I think this is a very, depending on where you sit in the equation as a viewer of this brand, I think it's a massive intersection between personal, emotional and political journey. Tebe's comment, I think, is an interesting one, and it's we participated in a forum where we've had a similar conversation, almost at a master South African brand level, embracing all facets: sport, tourism, business, national icons across the board. This is a whole lot has become, I think, highly emotive because there seemed to be, political intervention in what is a 100-year-old brand, essentially, well acknowledged on the global stage. It is a current world champion. It has ownership vested in an entity in the form of Saru.
Yes.
It's becoming it's almost transcending the political space into a commercial conversation that I think their sentiment is being tinkered with. So I don't think it's a simple and easy conversation in many quarters.
True.
But having said that, though, they haven't fundamentally changed the brand. All they've done, they've changed the label. Or they've amended the label. The team can still be called Springboks, just as we call the football team Bafana. The cricket team is the one who's got a problem, which needs another name. What the Protea does, all it does, it says, here is how we label our sporting teams.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that's how we affectionately refer to them. What people refer to when they talk about the inherent equity of the last 100 years of the Springbok, they're talking to the affection and the perceptions that they have on the overall brand.
But then,
not necessarily the
lead
label
necessarily to misunderstanding as well? Because, the cricket team, as you point out, is known as the Proteas.
Well, the next biggest challenge is to change all of them to be called Proteas, but I don't think we need to go there. For me, it's not necessary to go there. What should happen is the Proteas should, quote-unquote, sub-brand. They should have another affectionate name on how we refer to them. Just we call Bafana, Banyana, Makroko. But what's important is when I look at them all sitting on the shelf of South African sporting supermarket, I want to see that the three of them belong to one family, and that's what that is all about for me in this instance. Nobody's going to call the Springboks Proteas tomorrow. Nobody's ever asked for it. And the decision that they've reached now, it sounds like a compromise, but it actually is a right decision. In that they're saying that on your heart you wear the identity of the country, because the Protea is the overarching identity of South African sport. And they say that on the left-hand side, on the secondary level, you can have your nickname, if you will.
Alex, what's your take on it?
Well, I'm in the shadow of some great brand thinkers here today.
I know, you feel a bit shadow.
I'm kind of sitting here going, oh, what do you want me to say? But I think it's great, and I must say I've always enjoyed the fact that the sporting teams have had some sort of nickname. You know what I mean? I thought, the game's always very dull when it's sort of like Fiji versus Japan or something, and you think, well, that it just adds that extra colour or flavour if they say the Springboks versus,
All Blacks, or the Wallabies.
Well,
or the Wallabies even, yeah.
But look at the All Blacks. The All Blacks, all the national teams have got the, what do you call that?
Leaf.
They've got that leaf or the fern.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of them have got that, but we refer to them as the All Blacks.
As the All Blacks.
So it is a similar solution in the end. We're still going to call them the Springboks.
But the political interference interference, though. I mean, when the Springboks won, I remember I was one of the black people watching the final. I really didn't care what was on the jersey.
Does it fascinating thing?
If you understand what I'm saying.
You know, there's a counterpoint that says the Springbok was actually a unification symbol.
Yes.
It was good enough for Madiba to stand up in 1995 and celebrate.
But he had his own political agenda.
Mbeki did the same thing in 2007, was celebrated under the auspices of the Springbok. The thing that's fascinating for me to trigger the debate is if you go to the governmental website, the Springbok is still acknowledged as the national animal, as the protea is acknowledged as
the national flower. Yes.
As the yellowwood is acknowledged as the national tree.
Maybe that's where we need to start then.
So you go, well, if the Springbok's not good enough, why is it acknowledged as the national animal
but nobody,
on the government website?
But nobody has said the Springbok is not good enough.
But
all they've said
is such emotion and such debate.
But all they've said is that what is the central identity of South African national teams. So they're not saying it's not good enough. And what is regrettable, though, is that we've had to have politicians interfere to resolve what should have been really a simple administrative or branding solution, if you will.
And
that's what's probably causing all the emotions right now with everybody complaining and saying, why are they involved and why are they getting involved in all this? This debate has been going on now for 12, 15 years.
Yes.
They should have resolved it a long time ago.
But Tebe, tell me, in other countries, obviously they have more than one national team. Do they need to have that synergy in regards to identity and branding?
The All Blacks have got that synergy.
With other national teams?
Sorry, I mean the New Zealand teams have got the synergy. They're all black outfit and they all have the fern as a central identity.
In the different sports?
In the different sports.
Sporting codes.
And they all call different names.
Okay. They call them all black, yes. But then at the end of the day, Sean, I need to bring you in here. Where do we take this brand now forward? Is it necessarily, are we dealing with a new brand identity altogether? But I think, as Tebe alluded, it's not necessarily an entirely new brand.
Well, I think, no, it's not an entirely new brand. I think, as we were saying, looking at the existing collateral, the Protea exists side by side with the Springbok at the moment. I think those that are emotionally attached to the Springbok are saying you're taking it off the heart of the player's sleeve and you're moving it away. And does that mean that you're going to move it, you're going to migrate it away entirely? I guess that's probably where the fear lies, is will this be the beginning of the end for the Springbok identity? And I guess that's where the emotion is really prevailing. I was thinking in commercial terms, imagine tampering with Manchester United's brand right now. Imagine saying to the old faithful at Old Trafford,
we're taking the red out.
That we're going to turn your jersey green tomorrow. Imagine the revolt you're going to have. So it's no different to that, I think, in many respects.
But what we should always remember is that national teams, just like national companies and national people, they are a vector of the image of the country. They are the embodiment of what the country's proposition is about or what the country stands for. So when you see that the difference in how they treat it, you are beginning to say, well, have the Springboks actually moved with the times? So when you keep seeing the Springbok logo, which is actually part of the old heritage of South Africa, you have to ask yourself the question, have they moved far enough?
Or be that it's still the national animal as defined by government.
Be that is still the national, but in the new dispensation, the Protea is the overarching representation of what sporting brands is about.
But I guess the emblem has been tweaked once or twice in the past, and no drastic changes there.
Look, I think it's obviously evolved, and I think you find that with any brands. I mean, you've seen it with any big brand that you pick, they tweak and change. And I mean, I think every time I walk into a Pick and Pay, the Coca-Cola tin looks different. They've added a few more bubbles or a couple of things. And I think even the Springbok was jumping the other way at one point.
Yes, it was jumping the wrong way.
It's jumping the right way.
It was jumping the wrong way.
So, and that tweak has been made. But I must say, I think what Taber's also quite nicely explained is, I think, it's almost like a managerial kind of change. It's just sort of the saying, well, this is our sport department, and we're going to try and identify the sport department by having an overall sort of leading brand. And then the Springbok thing, I don't know if it's going from sort of almost a managerial kind of point of branding to a more, it's going to take more of a commercial kind of aspect.
I mean, talking about commercial, though, it's time for us to move to the Grand. I see this week you only have the Grand. Are you in a good mood this week?
Well, look, I mean, it's the US elections this year, and
that have just been concluded, they have a black president.
It's been very exciting. I think everyone's bought into it.
We can't hear enough of that.
And Leonardo DiCaprio and a couple of his mates got together, and they shot a viral video. Not for any political party, not for any personal candidate. just to get people out and voting, and it was a fantastic
How many
video.
did they get out?
Well, they say that reports afterwards say that they got 300,000 people to register to vote and actually go vote
Let's have a look
because
at
of
the
this
ad.
viral video.
Well, it's a brilliant ad, guys, I think. It's a great execution as well.
And I think especially now in South Africa this weekend, you know, voter registration happening for next year's election in South Africa.
Oh, I haven't seen an ad.
Well, I think this is a great inspiration for us to do some great things.
Alex is advertising. So it's time to vote.
Let me take this opportunity to thank both of you, Sean and Tebe, for coming through and
you,
joining us
Amanda.
on the show
Thank you.
today. Alex, I'll see you next week.
We'll see each other next week. And thanks
Well,
to the gentlemen
great.
for joining us.
Well, that's a wrap from myself and the team for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Until then, it's goodbye for now.